Hi everyone, you're welcome to today's section on the interview. So today we want to talk about the answers. What really was wrong with the answers? What could we learn from the answers? And what points could we take away from the answers? What does it mean to the youth? What does this mean to 2023 election? What does this mean generally to the government? And what does this mean to the youth? Sit back and enjoy this section. Bye. Yeah, so we'd like to know you. We'd like you to tell our audience your person, who you are, and what you like, and what really motivated you to join the NSAS movement here in London.
Yeah, my name is Akintunde, like you idly, introduced earlier. I'm a Nigerian. Yeah, and I recently completed my master's at the University of Sussex.
Great. Also, Sussex.
Yes, so the time enters, it's been an agitation for years, even before the 2020, global movements. It started in 2017, and I was, very much in Nigeria at the time, where it was just, a gathering of a few individuals, angry about the increasing rate of police brutality in the country against young persons, profiling especially, and personally, even before I traveled out of the country, sometimes you're traveling or you're driving around, and you
I
get
experienced one of those times when I was about coming here too as well.
Yeah, there was a time I traveled to Ibadan. I was going to pick a flight from Ibadan to Abuja, and I had, there was this, checkpoint. Where the officer was asking to check our bag. I had a 6 a.m. flight. I think it was around 5 a.m.
Oh, yeah. That's actually the usual operating time, actually. Early in the morning and late in the night.
Right. So it was like, he checked my bag and it was like, oh, you've got a brand new laptop here. And this laptop should be new. I said, yeah, it's new. He said, yeah, so can you get a receipt? I said, see, yeah, this is what I do. See my identity card. I mean, I can't be traveling around with
receipts and everything.
So yeah, and until he saw my ID card, then it was like, okay, drop something. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, and drop something. You just like.
So if you had not seen my identity card, or if you had not, if it was not, made, I got to know how to handle them. Just to be friendly. Don't, it probably would have led to something else, because what they do is they try to look at you, see you, they profile you, and think everybody with a laptop is an internet fraudster, and it's not as if they are even against internet fraudsters like that. It's just that they saw it as an opportunity to extort, to get, because they believe if I've had instances of this. Sometimes when they see you look in a certain way, they're like, okay. So when the protest started in 2020, when in Delta State, there was a video on Twitter where a guy had posted that a young man had just been shot. He was driving, and
tragic events.
That was, and it could be anyone. Yes. It could be anyone. So I had, because I've been part of, movements in Nigeria, not necessarily answers, but anything that has to do with, holding government to account, that has been myself for many years. So, when it started, I had been, adding my voice to the social media platform, to the hashtag on Twitter, leading support for people on the ground, let it go, let it happen. Yeah, let it happen. Calling my folks at home to ask, were you at a protest? You should be part of these, just making sure that,
guys are out there.
Because, I had just resumed my master's program at the time. So, to cut the long story short, then it started becoming a question of, there would be the London NSAS protest. So that was
that triggered you, like, that's what I was waiting for.
That became I must be there. Yeah. So myself and a few other Nigerians at Sussex Nigerian Society, we just said, guys, we need to go to London. So we strategized, then we pick on the next train on the Sunday morning. London, here we come. The Nigerian. So that was it.
That's interesting. Actually, 5 days before I actually left Nigeria, that was in 2021, I actually had my own share of the cake. My own part of the cake from the Nigerian police. I was like, that's another story from that day, because it was terrible. I was like, I was panicking. I had to just be begging, but it's actually very terrifying when you're in presence of these guys, and then you know that they can do and undo to you, and then nobody will hold this man accountable for your life, and then you just go like that. So, but it's good to hear your inspiration, the agitation, and what led to you joining it. But what really was the take-home lesson for everyone in this enters protest? Yeah, we can honor our fallen heroes on the 20th 10th of 2020, but the question is, what really was inscribed on the heart of many? What really was inscribed on that? Because a lot of persons don't really know what this thing holds for them, because we need to know what this thing holds. What does this movement mean to everyone? Yeah.
I think the Hensas movement, it was a turning point in social justice advocacy in Nigeria. It was, no one saw it coming.
True, actually.
It was not led by anyone. This was driven by common suffering. I had said somewhere else that the Hensas protest was driven by that's at least in Nigeria. I don't have the data, but I think even if you've not been brutalized by the Nigerian police, you will know someone that knows someone that has been a victim of police brutality in the country. So that means general hunger was something that you don't need to convince people to join. It was not like default. People were NSAS, or we have to NSAS because they've had terrible experience. The protest was driven by common suffering that everyone has caught. Even if they've not been personally attacked or affected, they've got someone that has been affected. Yeah, so it was easy to mobilize online and offline support.
True.
Then that movement started with, we no go gree, and SARS must go. Day 1, day 2, day 3.
Yeah, I was actually in Ikeja.
Right. Then people who ordinarily don't always join protests, celebrities, social media influencers, they started, say, this must stop. We have to end SARS. Then I think in Lagos, you've got, I think it was Naira Marley who at the point said he, is going to join the NSAS protest. Then I think the police intervened. He had a Instagram live with, I think, the first PRO. I can't remember. Then he said he won't be joining anymore. But other celebrities joined. And the things with celebrities and their fans. People know that Davido is influential. Among the youth, he was saying that he was going to join. In London, Wizkid said he would join the protest. Ogbeni Dipo had tweeted to say, Wizkid, you have to join, and Boyega. A lot of Nigerians, a lot of highly placed people started talking about the protest. So Wizkid said, Wizkid said it would be at London. It would be at the London protest. So it then became, everybody must get on. It became a very heavy movement that both online and offline things were, those that couldn't join on offline and they couldn't be on the ground, everybody was joining. And don't forget, it was during the pandemic. Just before then, a lot of people have been at home, bored.
Yeah, palliative.
So there was this public anger against governance deficit in the country. There was this unemployment.
Yeah, high rate of
unemployment. And people saw this as an opportunity to speak against governance irresponsibility. And that was why I said common suffering. And people thought they may not have the power to remove a government. They may not have the power to force the government to do anything. But social movement is what they've got in each numbers, and that was it.
Yeah, I was actually part of the Ikeja. I was in Ikeja. I witnessed everything. I joined the protest. I still have some of the videos on my phone, some of the pictures on my phone, and it was really, you could see how people actually came out in their numbers. Yeah. Some who have been victims, maybe not directly or indirectly, right. Their family members shot there, and then you see people mentioning names, like names were coming out in their 50s, in their 100s, like right. this person, and then there was connection everywhere. But yeah, that's common suffering. But aside that, we could also I think at one point in time during the movement, there was a shift in focus, and then this led to a lot of persons not focusing on what it's meant to be. Like, okay, let's say the movement was end police brutality,
right?
But at some point, governance came in.
Right.
At some point, everyone was agitating for change, like Barry must go. Do you really think that should have come around that time, or we should have just been on the NSAS, and then we should have hit the nail on this NSAS and then say that our demands were being met before we transfer our focus on another thing?
Right. So, like I said, NSAS was the first movement that was moving, and the government had said, I think it was in London, where the government had released a statement that, see, NSAS has been disbanded,
Okay, yeah.
and go home. People were like, okay, NSAS has been disbanded, but protesters are still being arrested across the country. So,
Yeah.
what sort of disconnect is that? SARS have been disbanded, you're still shooting at protesters. So, what's the point? We are protesting against police brutality, but you are using you're brutalizing protesters. So that was a miss. You could not be, talking about reforming the Nigerian police. You could not be talking about all of those reforms and be using what we are protesting against to respond to us.
True.
And we then thought, then that means there is a problem with the governance framework in the country.
Okay.
Can we turn this movement? Can we turn this energy rather to demand, alongside NSAS, end bad governance in the country? Can we call government attention? I mean, there was these 5 demands, by the protesters and all of those things. Don't forget, there was no formal structure of leadership.
True, that's very true.
So it was all everybody just getting on the energy. Talk about Buhari must go. That was not what NSAS was about, and that was not the protest I was part of.
Oh, okay.
Buhari is a democratically elected president.
Yeah.
He's got 4 years. After 4 years, and
He must end this
that's the
tenure
law.
before, yeah.
So that was not the NSAS that I was part of. But again, it's a protest that was decentralized, where there was no, these are the leaders. So everybody was just, and it's hashtag activism, where anybody can coin the hashtag Buhari must go and push it on social media.
Yeah, true, and add it to the NSAS movement.
But the government even knew it was not about a regime change. It wasn't about that. But don't forget, common suffering. A lot of people, and it's when you talk of social movement that got no structure. So a lot of actors would come to play. People who wanted to, they got their own personal agenda to achieve. They was like, let's take advantage of this movement to get on our own thing. So there was that. We got a lot of issues with coordination and all of those processes. Those are things that happens when you talk about social movement generally, globally. That's what
that means coordination.
Yeah,
so bad coordination.
So there was no central coordination to place the movement in focus in that regard. So there were issues. We could talk about the structure. We could talk about lack of exit strategy at some point when when the government was saying, okay, we'll set up judicial panel. We've got to do this. It was then who would then call off this protest?
That's true.
That became a question, because if I said, okay, nobody would say, oh, let's stop the protest. I remember in London, we got some people were this other side, some were the other side. It was difficult to sort of bring people together to say do this or do that, because according to the protest, according to the even though there were no leaders, but there were people who were directly mobilizing financial resources. We've got a lot of organizations, mobilizing resources to make things work. So there's some people that you could identify and say, yeah, this person was, they were. So that, but there was no exit strategy for the protest to then go back, think about how do we negotiate, how do we have a seat at the table to talk about, okay, we wanted, these are the demands. The government that said they were disbanding SARS, but these things were still happening. How do we make sure that the country is set on a better platform for a working system? But the story how things unfolded, where the government saw that people were not yielding to that the promise to disband SARS was not getting to people's ears. Then there was a jailbreak in those states. That became a question of, okay, governors were saying, okay, I mean, we saw states where governors even participated in. I think in Lagos State, in Shomolu was part of the
Yeah,
protest.
it came out.
You know,
Yeah,
it came out. I think
and then
in
they
your state,
did a movement. They
yeah,
walked with the
yeah.
people.
But you know, government, you know, at the state level started saying, see, I mean, we need to put a stop to this. Then they started announcing a curfew that restricting movement, and Lagos protesters were like, I mean, yeah, you can restrict the movement, but we will still have our demand. So on the 20th of October,
the sporadic gunshots.
it happened here.
Yeah, you mentioned some salient points, and one of them was organization. Like there was no structure. There was no structure that we could say that, oh, let's now put an end to all the protests and call everybody back. Even though there were financial structures where people are dispersed.
I mean, there were a lot of structures to mobilize financial resources.
But I think one of the things that was missing was leadership. Now there was this thing everyone was saying on social media that, oh, we don't want any leader, we just want to move. And I think when leadership is missing, focus and goal will also be missing as well. I think that was one of the things, because we could not negotiate. Now the government were demanding that let some people come and negotiate, but at one point no one to show up to go and negotiate, and they don't want to call it back. So could that be one of like a defect in the protest, the protest?
Right. So, there's this culture of lack of trust between citizens and government in Nigeria, because government is used to defaulting on
their
promises.
Yeah.
So people felt, okay, what's the point of negotiating when it would eventually be not filled, or some gaslighting and that kind of thing.
And they just give some people.
And again, at the time government was, talking about representation, they were still arresting protesters. So it was like, so if you are still arresting our people,
why are you calling us?
To there was that, yeah. About the leadership, I remember making a few posts to say, I think we need to have a seat with the government. I mean, I personally believe that non-state actors can only, to any great extent, hold government to account by public demonstration, petition, you ask them questions. But to get things done, we need to arrive at the compromise to say, see,
sit down at the table.
I mean, that's my belief, that's my conviction.
Yeah.
So I don't entirely agree with the general idea that there should be no leaders. There should be no leadership structure for the movement. I think, and again, those who were, proposing the idea of having leadership, they've got your point to say, see, if you think of the leaders, they will become soft targets for, intimidation, they will become soft targets for, harm and all that. And we saw it happen.
Passport was seized.
Yeah. There was restriction of bank accounts. So we saw that happen. So government was not entirely sincere. So if you are calling people to come negotiate and you're already restricting their accounts, so it's a difficult position to take, to say, leaders or no leaders. Even though there was no leaders, we've got people who were arrowheads that got their accounts, on restriction. A lot of media organizations got fined for. So it was a very complicated situation at the time. So difficult to tell.
Yeah. So that's actually very true. The government are not being sincere, and then how will you say that? How will you tell your parents that, oh, you went to the round table to discuss, and all of a sudden you ended up in the jail like that? I don't know, but
a lot of people got
there was fear, because
the government body language was saying something else.
Yes, true. Because around that time, where I was active on social media around that time, and then I could see a lot of persons say, I was also involved in the bail application for some person, because as a lawyer I volunteered that I want to, and then I could see how some persons were being treated in a police cell, even though they were not there. Like, I had pity for them, but I couldn't do anything because you were not the ones we came there to bail. So we come there to bail. So what I contact. So I think what do you think is the mark of this on the citizen? Like, what do you think this will tell the government about the youth? What do you think it is in for this thing for the youth? Like, should we be suspecting these youth that they are up to something 2023? Does NSAS has a link with 2023? Can it be used as a I don't know the right word to use now, but can it be in the mind of the government that for the youths who have done this now, is there no opportunity for them to revolt against us in 2023 and then bring in their person into power?
Wow, it's interesting. Yeah. Okay. First, to look at the government action after the Hensas protest. They placed restriction
Yeah.
on bank account of certain persons. They seized, they seized, bank account. Sorry,
Yeah,
international passports
passports.
of persons. They placed some persons on a watch list. Then they banned Twitter.
Yeah.
Before
Twitter
Twitter
is back
deleted
now.
the president's tweet,
Yeah.
the information minister had been saying that Twitter's Twitter supported the tweet by even Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter. He had tweeted in support of NSAS. There was a Twitter icon.
Yeah.
This fist to show solidarity. So the government was angry. Apparently, the information minister was up and loud against Twitter, saying Twitter was a threat to Nigeria's corporate existence. That's in the frame. So they banned Twitter. They believed that was a tool that the government, the young people used to mobilize. And also, so
All these things have
the president's body language was that to NSAS was about regime change. And that was totally fallacious. I mean, that's not true. NSAS was not about regime change. We got some actors who used the movement, the sentiment to push their own agenda. But a government does not, keep malice against its citizens.
Sure.
I mean, government should not, hold citizens to this unnecessary, anger in that frame. Young people wanted, in fact, those who participated in NSAS, it was for the love of country. We love the country. That was when we were part of the protest. Yeah. So it was just unfortunate that happened. Talking about 2023 general elections, NSAS was driven by common suffering, irrespective of political affiliation, religious bias, ethnic, whatever. Everybody felt they got a common enemy and they needed to fight against it.
The common enemy, and they need to fight against it.
Politics is a different ballgame. And the aftermath of the NSAS protest, you would see a lot of divided camps, a lot of back and forth about accountability,
Even till
of
now.
financials.
Oh my God. No. I don't really want us to discuss about that. Maybe if I could find another person that could do that.
So I was just saying,
yeah.
NSAS was a movement that showed the possibility of a united force.
United Youth.
But
Maybe that would be a party.
2023 election,
Yeah.
will NSAS play a role? I'm totally not sure. Because to win elections in the country, presidential here, there are certain things that must be put in place.
True.
Those who give their all for the NSAS protest, are they ready to do same now? I don't think so. That's where we are.
Well, that's a very big question. That those who gave their all for instance, are they ready to do so now?
Because you've seen people call them out or say how you're part of the protest, you embezzled financials, or you did this, you did that. A lot of so I mean that's a different conversation in the here.
But has is actually one thing rooted in social justice and social and like social movement, because it's actually a very big question. Those who gave their all for the NSAS, are they ready to give their all for the 2023 election? Everybody has a bias, and then this is just one of it. So, but I think everything in all, I think one of the things the youth should understand in all is that we have a force. We are a force.
NSAS showed the possibility of a united force.
Yeah, we are a force. And
Shows
then,
what is possible if people come together to achieve something.
yeah, that's it. And then I think aside that, we also need to learn that in every movement there should be a structure just like the movement, the movement in the ending of apartheid in South Africa. Everyone saw even though Mandela was not the leading person, but there was a leader for that. The leader was there to tell people. He could tell people that, oh, let's bring an end to this now. Let's move this way now. Let's move this way now. And then like that, there is a structure beyond financial money, well, financials and everything. But there was a structure. So this is really a good conversation. Thank you for pointing out this, because I think this is one point that we need to take home at any point. I think even it applies to me in everything I do. There should be a structure.
There should be a structure. There should be an exit strategy. You can't be on the wharf forever.
Strategy.
I mean, it's you have to go back and say, okay, what went well? You have to troubleshoot. And what's went well? How do we get on again?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Akintunde. It's really nice having this conversation with you. I hope to have more of this conversation with you, maybe on Zoom calls or Microsoft.
We would always have this conversation, and
so
I'm happy to
yeah, thank you so much for sharing your opinion, sharing your view about the answers and what mark it left in your heart, and the point everyone should take on for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.